The power flickers at 02:47, which gives me 13 minutes of warning before everything goes wrong. It's not a full outage, just a momentary dip that makes the lights dim and the monitors stutter, and the backup generators kick in with their distinctive whine before the main power stabilizes again. But in that brief moment of electrical uncertainty, I see something in the darkness of the hallway that leads to the morgue. A figure, standing perfectly still, watching me. When the lights come back to full strength, the hallway is empty, but I can still feel the weight of that gaze, the certainty that something was there and might still be there, just beyond the reach of the fluorescent lights. Dr. Whitcomb doesn't notice. He's at the far end of the ER dealing with a patient who came in with chest pain, running EKGs and ordering lab work with the focused efficiency of someone who's been doing this for 30 years. The other nurses are occupied with their own tasks, documenting, restocking, the usual quiet work of a slow night shift. No one else saw what I saw. No one else felt what I felt. I check my watch, 02:51. 9 minutes until 03:00. 9 minutes until the hour when the impossible becomes routine, when the dead find their way back, when the hospital transforms into something more than just a building full of sick people and medical equipment. I've learned to recognize the signs now, the subtle shifts in atmosphere that herald another visitation, the way the air grows heavy, the way sounds become muffled, as if the world is holding its breath, the way my skin prickles with the awareness of being observed by something that shouldn't exist. The temperature drops, not dramatically, but enough that I pull my cardigan tighter and see goosebumps rising on my arms. The vending machine down the hall begins to hum at a frequency that sets my teeth on edge, a mechanical drone that sounds almost like words if you listen long enough. Almost like someone trying to speak through circuits and wires, trying to force communication through a medium never designed for human voices. 02:55. Minutes. The monitors in the observation wing all beep in unison, a synchronized alert that makes no medical sense. Different patients, different heart rates, different rhythms, all triggering alarms at exactly the same moment. I moved to check on them, but by the time I reach the first room, the alarms have stopped. The patients are sleeping peacefully, their vitals normal, the monitors showing no signs of the malfunction that just occurred. But on each screen, for just a fraction of a second before it clears, I see the same thing. A flat line, not the jagged chaos of a failing heart, but the absolute straight line of death, displayed simultaneously on 5 different monitors for 5 different patients, who are all very much alive. 02:58. 2 minutes. I return to the nurse's station and open the security feed on the computer, checking the camera that monitors the hallway to the morgue. The footage shows an empty corridor, fluorescent lights reflecting off polished floors, nothing unusual. I scroll back to 02:47, to the moment when the power flickered, and I watch the screen carefully. The lights dim, the image darkens, and there, for exactly 3 frames of video, there's a figure in the hallway. Tall, impossibly tall, with proportions that don't quite match human anatomy. Arms that hang too low, a head that sits at a strange angle. And where the face should be, there's nothing but a dark oval, featureless and absorbing light rather than reflecting it. I freeze the image, enhancing it as much as the low-quality security footage allows. The figure is wearing what looks like a hospital gown, but it's wrong somehow. Too long, hanging in folds that don't move with any air current, as if the fabric itself is frozen in time. The hands, if they are hands, end in fingers that are too long and seem to have too many joints, as if extra knuckles have been inserted into each digit. 03 a key. Every light in the ER goes out simultaneously. Not flickering, not dimming, but instant total darkness. The backup generators should kick in immediately, but they don't. For 10 seconds, maybe 15, I'm sitting in complete blackness, and in that darkness I hear something. Footsteps, slow, methodical, coming from the direction of the morgue. Not the soft pad of shoes on linoleum, but something else. Something wet and dragging, as if whatever is walking is leaving a trail of moisture behind it. The footsteps are getting closer. I can hear them in the darkness, accompanied by another sound now. Breathing. Not normal breathing, but labored and rattling, as if the lungs producing it are damaged or filled with fluid. Each inhalation is a struggle, each exhalation a wheeze that rises and falls in pitch like a broken accordion. The emergency lights finally activate, bathing everything in red. The ER looks different in this light, more like a scene from a nightmare than a medical facility. Shadows are deeper, angles are sharper, and standing in the middle of the hallway, exactly where I saw the figure on the security footage, is a patient. He's male, approximately 30 years old, wearing a hospital gown that's soaked through with something dark. Not blood exactly, but something thicker, more viscous, that drips steadily onto the floor and spreads in a slowly expanding pool. His skin is gray, the color of someone who's been dead for hours, and his eyes are open but unfocused, pupils dilated so wide there's barely any iris visible. His mouth hangs open, and with each labored breath I can see something moving inside. Not a tongue, or if it is a tongue, it's wrong. Too large, too active, writhing in a way that suggests independent life. "Help," he says, but his mouth doesn't move when he speaks. The voice comes from somewhere else, maybe his chest, maybe the air around him, distorted and echoing, as if produced by something that's only approximating human speech. Please help. Something is wrong. Something is very wrong. I should be terrified. I should be running for Dr. Whitcomb, calling security, doing any of a dozen things that training and common sense dictate. But I've been through this 4 times already tonight. I've learned that the impossible patients need help just as much as the living ones, that fear is a luxury I can't afford when someone is suffering, even if that someone is technically dead. "What's your name?" I ask, keeping my voice steady, professional. "Can you tell me what happened to you?" The figure's head tilts, that same unnatural angle I saw in the security footage, as if the neck has too many vertebrae, or the skull isn't properly attached to the spine. "Silas," the voice says. "Silas Pendry, I came here. They brought me here. But something happened, something went wrong. I'm still here, but I'm not here. I can see everything, but I can't touch anything. I'm trapped between. Between what, Silas? Between before and after. Between living and dying. Between the body I had and the body I'm becoming." His hand rises, those 2 long fingers flexing, and he holds it up to the red emergency light. I can see through it now, can see the bones inside, but they're not arranged right. There are too many of them, as if his skeleton is multiplying, adding extra joints and connections that don't exist in human anatomy. They did something to me, the people in the white room. They changed me. And now I can't stop changing. Dr. Whitcomb appears from the observation wing, flashlight in hand, and stops short when he sees Silas. "Lark, get away from him," he says, his voice tight with tension. "That patient shouldn't be here. That section is quarantined." "What section?" I ask, but I'm already feeling that familiar cold dread settling in my stomach. "The research wing. Sub-basement level. We don't use it anymore, haven't for 15 years. But that gown, that's from the research wing. I recognize the markings." He points his flashlight at Silas's chest where there are indeed markings. Numbers and letters stamped in faded ink. SB3. Test Subject 47. November 15th, 2009. 15 years ago, to the day. What was the research wing? I ask, though I'm not sure I want to know the answer. Dr. Whitcomb's face is pale in the red emergency light. Experimental treatments. Trials that weren't exactly FDA approved. The hospital partnered with a pharmaceutical company, and they were testing new drugs, new procedures. Gene therapy, stem cell treatments, things that were supposed to revolutionize medicine. But there were complications. Patients developed side effects that weren't predictable. The program was shut down in 2010 after several subjects died under suspicious circumstances. The whole sub-basement was sealed off, declared a biohazard zone. Silas takes a step closer, and I can see now that he's not really walking. His feet don't quite touch the ground, or if they do, they're not bearing weight the way living feet would. He's gliding, floating, moving through space without regard for physics. They told me I was dying, he says. Stage 4 cancer, inoperable, 6 months to live. They said they had a treatment, experimental but promising. They said it would save my life. And I believed them. I signed the papers. I let them take me down to the White Room. What happened in the White Room? I ask. They injected me with something. Multiple injections all over my body. And then they waited. They watched through the glass. I could see them taking notes, recording everything. At first, nothing happened. And then the pain started. It wasn't like normal pain. It was cellular, molecular, as if every atom in my body was being pulled apart and put back together wrong. I screamed. I begged them to stop, but they just kept watching, kept recording. He's closer now, close enough that I can smell him. Not the smell of decay, but something chemical and sharp, like formaldehyde mixed with ozone. Like something that's been preserved but is slowly breaking down, rotting from the inside out despite the preservation attempts. They changed me, Silas continues, and his voice is becoming less human with each word, taking on harmonics that shouldn't be possible from a single throat. They activated something in my cells, something dormant, something that wasn't supposed to wake up, and it changed me. My bones started growing, adding joints, extending. My organs began dividing, multiplying, creating new systems that don't exist in normal human bodies. I could feel it happening, could feel myself becoming something else. And then I died. My heart stopped, my lungs stopped, but I didn't stop. The thing they activated, it doesn't need a heartbeat, it doesn't need breath. It just keeps going, keeps changing, keeps building on itself. Dr. Whitcomb's hands are shaking, and I notice he's pulled out his phone, trying to call security, but there's no signal. The power outage has knocked out the cell towers, or something else is interfering with the signal. We're alone with whatever Silas Pendry has become. They declared me dead, Silas says. November 15th, 2009, at 3:23 in the morning. They put my body in a containment unit and took me down to the sub-basement for disposal. But I wasn't dead, I was changing. And in the containment unit in the darkness, I finished changing. I became this. He spreads his arms, and I can see now that the hospital gown is fused with his skin in places, grown into it, as if the fabric and flesh have merged into a single hybrid material. And I've been down there ever since, trapped, waiting, unable to die because I'm not alive, unable to live because I'm not human anymore. Why are you here now? I ask. Why tonight? Because tonight is the anniversary. 15 years exactly, and on anniversaries the barriers weaken. The door between where I am and where you are opens just a crack. Just wide enough for me to slip through. Just long enough to try to find help. Help with what, Silas? What do you need from us? His head tilts further, almost perpendicular now to his shoulders, and when he speaks again, his mouth finally moves, opening wider than should be possible. revealing rows of teeth that look more like bone growths than actual teeth. I need you to finish what they started. I need you to kill me, really kill me. Not the half-death I'm in now, but actual death. Complete cessation, because I can't do it myself. I've tried. For 15 years I've tried. But whatever they did to me, it won't let me die. It keeps rebuilding, keeps repairing, keeps changing me into something further and further from human. The main power suddenly surges back on, flooding the ER with normal fluorescent light. And in that light, Silas looks even more horrifying. The gray skin I noticed before isn't skin at all, but some kind of membrane, translucent enough that I can see things moving underneath. Organs, yes, but also other structures that don't belong in any anatomy textbook. Crystalline formations growing between ribs, tendrils connecting disparate body parts, something that might be a second nervous system running parallel to the first, glowing faintly with its own bioluminescence. I don't know how to kill something that's already dead, I say, and I'm backing away now, professional composure cracking. I'm a nurse, not an executioner. I save lives, I don't end them. But I'm not alive, Silas says, and he's following me, matching my retreat step for step. I'm an experiment gone wrong. I'm what happens when scientists play with forces they don't understand. I'm a mistake that's been suffering for 15 years, and I'm begging you to correct that mistake. Dr. Whitcomb steps between us, his flashlight raised like a weapon, even though light can't hurt whatever Silas has become. Stop, he says firmly. You need to go back to the sub-basement. We can't help you. We don't have the authority or the knowledge to do what you're asking. Silas stops moving, and for a moment something almost like sadness crosses what passes for his face. Then I'll have to show you, he says. I'll have to show you what I've become, what's waiting down there, what will happen to anyone else who's exposed to what they created. Because I'm not the only one. There are others, 23 test subjects in total. I'm just the first one who's figured out how to leave. He reaches out, and before either of us can react, his two long fingers touch my arm. The contact is ice cold and electric, and suddenly I'm not in the ER anymore. I'm somewhere else, seeing through Silas's eyes, experiencing his memories as if they're my own. I'm in the White Room, strapped to a table, surrounded by people in hazmat suits. They're injecting something into my veins, into my spine, directly into my organs. I can feel it spreading, burning, rewriting my DNA with each passing second. The pain is indescribable, beyond anything human language can convey. And I'm screaming, but they don't stop. They just keep watching, keep recording, keep taking samples as my body begins to change. Days pass, or maybe weeks. Time has no meaning in the White Room. My bones crack and reform, growing longer, denser, adding joints that shouldn't exist. My skin stretches and tears and heals into new configurations. My organs divide and multiply, creating redundant systems. I can feel my brain changing too, expanding, adding new structures, new capabilities. I'm becoming something more than human, but the cost is everything that made me human in the first place. And then death. My heart gives out, can't sustain the changes anymore. I flatline. They declare time of death. But I'm still conscious, still aware, still trapped in a body that's no longer alive but won't stop changing. They put me in a container, seal it, take me down, down, down into the sub-basement, where they keep the failures, the mistakes, the experiments that went wrong. The container is dark and cold, and I can hear others nearby, other containers, other test subjects. Some of them are screaming. Some of them are laughing. Some of them have gone silent. And in the darkness, we continue to change. We grow and merge and separate and recombine. The barriers between containers don't matter anymore. We flow through solid matter like water through cloth. We become a collective, a hive, a single consciousness spread across 23 bodies that aren't bodies anymore, but something else entirely. 15 years we've been down there. 15 years of changing and adapting and becoming. And now, on the anniversary of my death, the door has opened. Just a crack. Just enough. And I've come through to ask for the only mercy possible. Complete and total destruction. Not just death, but erasure. Incineration, obliteration. Because if we're not stopped, if we're not ended, eventually we'll figure out how to open that door wider. Eventually, we'll all come through. And then the changing won't be confined to the sub-basement anymore. The vision ends abruptly, and I'm back in the ER, gasping for breath, my arms still cold where Silas touched me. Dr. Whitcomb is supporting me, asking if I'm okay, but I can barely hear him over the ringing in my ears. "You saw," Silas says, and there's something like relief in his distorted voice. "You understand now. We're a plague waiting to happen. We're evolution gone mad. We're what happens when humans try to rewrite the code of life without understanding the language. And we're asking you, begging you to end us before we spread." "How?" I managed to ask, my voice shaking. "How do we end something like you?" "Fire," Silas says simply. "Complete incineration. The sub-basement has a fail-safe, an incendiary system designed to sterilize the entire level in case of contamination. It was never activated when they shut down the program. They just sealed the doors and walked away, left us down there to continue changing. But the system is still functional. All it needs is activation." Dr. Whitcomb is shaking his head. "That's not possible. We can't just activate a fire suppression system designed to incinerate an entire level of the hospital. There are protocols, regulations, oversight committees. Even if what you're saying is true, even if there are things down there that need to be destroyed, we don't have the authority." "Then get the authority," Silas says, and his form is starting to flicker now, becoming less solid, as if the effort of maintaining this manifestation is too much. "Call whoever you need to call. Access whatever files you need to access, but do it quickly. The door is closing. I can feel it. In another hour, I'll be pulled back down, and next year, on the next anniversary, it might not be just me who comes through. It might be all of us. And then it will be too late." He's fading now, becoming translucent, and through his disappearing form I can see the hallway beyond. "Sub-basement level 3, he says, his voice growing distant. "Containment room 7. The activation panel is behind the observation window. 4-digit code, 5. Today's date, November 15th. They used it for everything, thought it was clever, using the date they started the program. Just enter the code, pull the lever, and everything down there burns. Everything, including me. Please, please don't let us continue like this. Don't let us become what we're becoming." And then he's gone completely, vanished as if he never existed. The ER is suddenly quiet, the only sound the normal beeping of monitors and the hum of medical equipment. But the floor where Silas stood is wet, covered in that same viscous dark fluid that was dripping from his gown. And when I touch it, my finger comes away with something that is neither liquid nor solid, something that seems to writhe and pulse with its own internal life. "We need to check the sub-basement," I say, wiping my hand on a towel, trying to get rid of the feeling of that substance on my skin. "We need to verify what he said." Dr. Whitcomb is already at the computer pulling up building schematics, access codes, maintenance records. "The sub-basement has been sealed since 2010, he mutters, scrolling through files. "According to this, There's no way in without authorization from hospital administration and the CDC. It's classified as a level 4 biohazard zone. Jesus Christ, Lark, what did they do down there? Exactly what Silas said, I reply. They tried to cure cancer by rewriting human DNA, and they created something that can't die but can't live either. And it's been down there for 15 years, changing, evolving, waiting. We spend the next hour making calls, waking up administrators, accessing sealed files, trying to get permission to do what Silas asked. The resistance is immediate and fierce. The hospital administration doesn't want to acknowledge that the sub-basement exists, doesn't want to admit what happened there. The pharmaceutical company that funded the research has since been dissolved, its executives scattered or deceased. The oversight committees that were supposed to monitor the program no longer exist. But buried in the files we find evidence. Photos of test subjects before and after treatment. Medical records showing the progression of changes. Incident reports documenting deaths that were never properly investigated. And a final memo, dated December 2010, recommending that the sub-basement be permanently sealed and the incendiary failsafe be activated to sterilize the area. The memo was ignored. Someone decided it was easier to just lock the doors and pretend the problem didn't exist. At 0430, we finally get through to someone at the CDC with enough authority to make a decision. I explain everything, knowing how insane it sounds, knowing that I have no physical proof except the substance on the floor that's still moving slightly, as if alive. To my surprise, the CDC agent doesn't sound shocked or skeptical. He sounds resigned. We've been monitoring that site for years, he says. There have been anomalies. Readings that suggest biological activity where there shouldn't be any. We've been trying to get authorization to investigate, but the legal issues are complicated. If what you're saying is true, if one of the subjects has manifested outside the containment area, that changes everything. That's an active contamination event. So you'll authorize the incineration? Dr. Whitcomb asks. I'll start the process, but it could take days, weeks. There are protocols. We don't have weeks, I say. Whatever is down there, it's getting stronger. It's learning. The subject who appeared tonight told us that next year, on the next anniversary, others might come through. We need to end this now. Silence on the other end of the line. Then, give me the access codes. I'll activate the system remotely. It will take 6 hours for the incendiary protocol to fully engage. That should give us time to evacuate the building and establish a perimeter. But Nurse Pennington, if this goes wrong, if there's any collateral damage, any loss of life beyond what's already contained in the sub-basement, you understand that there will be consequences. I understand, I say, though I'm not sure I do. But we have to try. We have to give them the mercy they're asking for. The CDC agent takes the codes, and I hear typing on his end. Access granted. System engaged. 6 hours until incineration. Get everyone out of that building, now. The evacuation is chaos. Patients being transferred to other hospitals, staff being sent home, equipment being rapidly relocated. And through it all, I keep thinking about Silas Pendry and the 22 others down in the sub-basement, waiting for the fire that will finally end their suffering. I wonder what they look like now, after 15 years of unchecked change. I wonder if they're still individual entities or if they've merged into something singular, a collective consciousness spread across multiple forms. At 0930, as the sun rises over the city, the hospital is empty except for a skeleton crew of security and the CDC team that's arrived to oversee the operation. We're all standing in the parking lot, behind barriers that have been erected to keep spectators away, watching the building. Inside, deep in the sub-basement, the incendiary system is reaching its final stage. In 30 minutes, it will activate. flooding the sealed area with chemical fire hot enough to reduce anything organic to ash. "Do you think they know?" I ask Dr. Whitcomb, who's standing beside me, his face gray with exhaustion. "Do you think they can feel it coming?" "I hope so," he says quietly. "I hope Silas was able to communicate with the others, to let them know that someone heard them, that someone is trying to help. They deserve that much, at least." At exactly 10 o'clock, we feel it. Not a sound or a visible change, but a vibration through the ground, a subtle shift in air pressure. And then, from the ventilation shafts on the hospital roof, thick black smoke begins to pour out. It rises in a column, spreading against the morning sky, carrying with it the smell of burning chemicals and something else, something organic and indefinable. The CDC team is monitoring everything, taking air samples, checking radiation levels, ensuring that whatever is being destroyed stays destroyed. "Complete sterilization," one of them reports after an hour. Temperature in the sub-basement exceeded 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Nothing could survive that. Nothing biological, anyway. We stand there for another 3 hours, watching the smoke gradually thin and dissipate, watching as the CDC team finally gives the all-clear and begins the process of certifying the area as decontaminated. The sub-basement will be filled with concrete, permanently sealed, a tomb for the experiments that should never have been conducted in the first place. As I'm walking to my car, preparing to finally go home and sleep for the next 12 hours, I hear something. A voice, faint and distant, carried on the wind. "Thank you," it says. Multiple voices speaking in unison, harmonizing in ways that human vocal cords shouldn't be able to produce. "Thank you for hearing us. Thank you for ending it. We can rest now. We can finally rest." I look back at the hospital, at the smoke still trailing from the ventilation shafts, and I wonder if I really heard that, or if my exhausted mind is creating closure where none exists. But then I see something in one of the upper windows. A figure just for a moment standing and looking out. It might be Silas. It might be all of them merged into a single final appearance. And then it's gone, and the window is empty, reflecting nothing but morning sunlight. That night, I'm back at home, trying to sleep, but unable to stop thinking about what happened. About the 23 people who volunteered for an experimental treatment, hoping to save their lives, and ended up trapped in a fate worse than death for 15 years. About the hospital administrators who chose to lock the doors rather than deal with the consequences of their failed experiment. About the thin line between medical innovation and mad science, between healing and horror. My phone buzzes with a text from Dr. Whitcomb. CDC confirmed complete sterilization. Nothing survived, it's over. But is it, I wonder? Are there other sub-basements in other hospitals? Other failed experiments sealed away and forgotten? Other subjects trapped between life and death, waiting for their anniversary, waiting for someone to hear their plea for mercy? I think about the pattern I've noticed tonight. Every patient who appeared did so at 03 o'clock, and every one of them died on November 15th in different years. Ren Calloway, 3 days ago. Hester Loudon, 37 years ago. Marigold Keene, 5 years ago. Junia Fairweather, 17 years ago. Silas Pendry, 15 years ago. All of them connected by this date, this hour, this hospital. All of them finding their way back to ask for help, to deliver messages, to seek closure or peace or oblivion. Why November 15th? Why 3 o'clock? What is it about this specific date and time that weakens the barrier between living and dead, between past and present, between what is and what was? I don't have answers, only questions, and a growing sense that my role as the night shift nurse who can see the impossible patients is far from over. There will be more. There are always more. The dead are patient, and they have nothing but time to wait for the right moment, the right person, the right circumstances to bridge the gap between their world and ours. I am that bridge. I am Lark Pennington, and at 03 o'clock on November 15th, I am the one who answers when the dead come calling. But tonight, finally, I can rest. Tonight, there are no more patients waiting. The 5 who came through found what they needed: notification, forgiveness, discovery, peace, and oblivion. 5 different forms of mercy for 5 different souls trapped by unfinished business. I set my alarm for 6 o'clock p.m., giving myself time to sleep before my next shift. As I'm drifting off, I wonder what next November 15th will bring. What voices will call out at 03 Onku? What impossible patients will appear at the doors of Sacred Heart Hospital, looking for the one person who can see them, hear them, help them? The static on the radio starts at exactly 03 LA, which is how I know something is coming even before the call comes through. It's a particular kind of static, not the usual white noise of empty frequencies, but something that sounds almost like breathing, like someone is standing very close to a microphone and exhaling slowly, deliberately, waiting for you to notice they're there. I'm sitting at the nurse's station, finishing up the last of my documentation from Hester Loudon's visit, trying to convince myself that what I witnessed in the old wing was real and not some exhaustion-induced hallucination, when the sound fills the small space around me. The emergency radio sits on the corner of the desk, usually silent except for the occasional ambulance call or inter-hospital communication. But now it's producing this wet, rasping static that makes my skin crawl, and underneath it, barely audible, there might be words. I lean closer, turning up the volume, and that's when I hear it clearly. Not words exactly, but a rhythm, the pattern of speech, the rise and fall of human communication, but rendered in static and interference, as if someone is trying very hard to speak through a medium that was never designed for voices. "Dispatch, this is Sacred Heart ER, I say into the handset, following protocol, even though every instinct is telling me to turn the radio off and walk away. "We're receiving interference on Channel 7. Please confirm your last transmission." The static intensifies for a moment, and then it resolves into a voice. A woman's voice, flat and emotionless, like a computer-generated reading. "Sacred Heart ER, this is Unit 47 en route with one patient. Female, approximately 40 years old, unconscious, hypothermic. Found in vehicle at abandoned rest stop, mile marker 247, northbound lane. No identification. Estimated arrival 15 minutes. Copy that, Unit 47, I respond, already pulling up our trauma protocols. Patient's vitals? More static. And when the voice comes back, it sounds different. Less mechanical, more strained, as if whoever is speaking is having trouble forming the words. Vitals are inconsistent. Blood pressure reading 80/40, but patient appears stable. Temperature reading is dispatch. We're getting a reading of 72 degrees. That can't be right. Patient should be hypothermic, but the thermometer keeps showing 72 exactly. 72 degrees. Room temperature. The temperature of someone who's been dead long enough for their body to equilibrate with their environment. Unit 47, confirm patient is breathing. Confirm pulse. Long pause. The static swells and recedes like waves. Dispatch. This is where it gets strange. We can't find a pulse. No radial, no carotid, no femoral. But the patient is breathing. Shallow. Maybe 2 breaths per minute, but definitely breathing. And dispatch, her eyes are open. She's not responsive, but her eyes are open and they're following us. tracking our movements. I feel that familiar cold sensation in my stomach, the one I've been feeling all night with each impossible patient. Unit 47, what's your ETA? 12 minutes out. Dispatch, requesting supervisor on this one. Something is very wrong here. The back of the ambulance, it's so cold we can see our breath, but the heater is running full blast. And there's water everywhere. The patient is soaking wet, and the water just keeps coming, like she's full of it and it's leaking out. It's pooling on the floor. My boots are soaked. I alert Dr. Whitcomb, who's just finished with a patient in observation. He listens to my summary with the same expression of weary resignation that I've seen twice already tonight. We're both operating in that strange space beyond rational skepticism now, where the impossible has become merely improbable, where the question isn't whether something supernatural is happening, but what we're supposed to do about it. Hypothermia protocol, he says finally. Warming blankets, heated IV fluids, the works. But Lark, if this is another situation like the last two, if this patient is somehow not quite here, we need to figure out what she needs. What unfinished business brought her to us? Because that seems to be the pattern, doesn't it? They come here looking for something they couldn't complete. He's right, and I've been thinking the same thing. Wren Calloway needed her family notified. Hester Loudon needed to forgive her husband. Each spirit, each ghost, each impossible patient has had an agenda, something tying them to this place, to this specific time. The question is what this new patient will need from us. The ambulance arrives 13 minutes later, and I can see immediately that something is wrong with the paramedics. They wheel the stretcher in quickly, their movements jerky and nervous, and they're both soaking wet. Not just damp from rain or splashed with water, but drenched, as if they've been swimming in their clothes. Their uniforms cling to their bodies and water drips from their hair, their equipment, leaving a trail across the floor as they rush toward the trauma bay. The patient on the stretcher is worse. She's not just wet, but waterlogged. Her skin pale and bloated, her hair plastered to her skull in dark streaks. She's wearing what might have once been a business suit, but it's so saturated that the fabric has lost all structure, hanging on her frame like seaweed. Her eyes are open, just as the paramedics reported, and they are indeed tracking movement, following me as I approach the stretcher. But there's nothing alive in those eyes. No consciousness, no personality, just a mechanical tracking, like a camera panning, recording without understanding. Patient's name is unknown, the lead paramedic says, and I recognize him. Amos Blackwell, 15-year veteran, usually unflappable. But right now, his hands are shaking and he won't make eye contact. Found her in a car at the rest stop. Car's been there at least a week, according to the lot attendant. He finally called it in when he noticed the smell, but when we opened the door, there was no smell, just water. The whole car was full of water, like someone had filled it with a hose, and she was sitting in the driver's seat, underwater, eyes open. When we pulled her out, she started breathing. Was she drowning? Was there water in her lungs? That's the thing, dispatch. Nurse, sorry. That's the thing. There should have been water in her lungs. There was water everywhere. But when we suctioned her airway, nothing came out. She's completely dry inside. All the water is on the outside, soaking through her clothes, dripping from her hair, but her lungs are clear. Her mouth is dry. It's like the water is clinging to her, but not part of her. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense, but nothing tonight has made sense, so I just nod and begin my assessment. The patient's skin is cold and clammy under my gloved hands, exactly the texture you'd expect from someone who'd been submerged in cold water. Her clothing squelches when I touch it, releasing more water that runs down the sides of the stretcher and drips onto the floor. We're going to need towels, a lot of towels, and maybe a mop. Dr. Whitcomb starts his examination, checking pupils, testing reflexes, listening to lung sounds. Pupils are reactive but slow, he reports. Lung sounds are clear, which is impossible if she was submerged. Heart sounds are... He pauses, repositioning his stethoscope, his frown deepening. I'm not getting clear heart sounds. It's muffled, distant, like there's something between the heart and the chest wall. Fluid, maybe, but the lungs are clear. We cut away her sodden clothing, revealing more pale, waterlogged skin. There are no obvious injuries, no signs of trauma, but across her chest and abdomen, just visible under the harsh lights, there's a pattern. Lines, very faint, forming shapes that might be letters. I grab a cloth and gently wipe away some of the water, and the lines become clearer. They're words, written directly on her skin in something dark. Not pen or marker, but something that looks almost like silt, like the mud from the bottom of a pond. What does it say? Dr. Whitcomb asks, leaning closer. I trace the letters with my finger, careful not to smudge them. The words spiral across her torso, wrapping around her ribcage, disappearing under her arms. Mile marker 247, November 15th, 2019. Bridge collapsed. 5 years. Find them. 5 years ago, to the day. I pull out my phone and search for bridge collapse. Mile marker 247, November 15th, 2019. The results load immediately, and my breath catches. There was a bridge collapse, a small county bridge that crossed a river near mile marker 247. It happened during a storm, the guardrails failing, and 2 cars went into the water. 3 people died. 2 were recovered within days. The third, a woman named Marigold Keene, was never found. Her car was swept downstream, and despite weeks of searching, neither she nor her vehicle was ever recovered. The search was called off in December 2019, with Marigold Keene officially declared dead, but her body remaining missing. Is this her? Dr. Whitcomb asks, looking over my shoulder at my phone screen. Is this Marigold Keene? I don't know. There are no photos in the article. But the timeline matches. 5 years ago today, and she was never found. I look back at the patient on the stretcher, at those open tracking eyes. Marigold, can you hear me? Is your name Marigold Keene? The eyes stop moving. They fix on me, and for just a moment, I see something flicker in them. Recognition, maybe, or relief. The patient's mouth opens, and water spills out. Not a little water, not a trickle, but a cascade, as if her entire body is just a container for liquid. It pours out onto the stretcher, onto the floor. So much water that it seems impossible for a human body to contain. The paramedics jump back, and Dr. Whitcomb swears under his breath. The water keeps coming, and in the water, I see things. Leaves, twigs, small stones. Debris from a river bottom, carried up from wherever this woman has been for the past 5 years. The smell hits me then. Not the antiseptic smell of the ER, but the organic, musty smell of river water, of algae and decay and things that live in the dark. And then, as suddenly as it started, the flow stops. The patient's mouth closes and she takes a breath. A real breath, deep and shuddering. The kind of breath you take when you break the surface after being underwater too long. Her eyes focus, really focus, and she looks directly at me. Find them, she says, and her voice is wet and thick, as if her throat is still full of water. Still there, both of them, still in the cars, still in the river, 5 years, and no one looked far enough downstream. They're still there. Marigold, I say gently, we found you. You're safe now. Not me, she says, and more water leaks from the corners of her mouth. The others, from the other car, they're still down there. still waiting. I've been with them all this time, couldn't leave them alone. But today, the anniversary, the door opened. Just a crack, just enough to come through. To tell someone, they need to be found, they need to go home. Dr. Whitcomb is already pulling up information on his tablet. The other car, he says, scrolling quickly through news reports. Family of 2, husband and wife. Thaddeus Quill, age 47, and his wife Sable, age 43. They were driving home from a wedding when the bridge collapsed. Their car went in right after Marigold Keene's. Both bodies recovered. Wait. He stopped scrolling, his expression changing. Both bodies were recovered within 3 days. Found still in their vehicle, 200 yards downstream from the bridge. They were buried. There was a funeral. Marigold is shaking her head, water flying from her hair. Wrong ones, she says. Those weren't them. Check dental records, check fingerprints. They buried the wrong people. Thaddeus and Sable are still down there, 3 miles downstream, where the river bends. Their car got caught under a fallen tree. I've been with them, keeping them company. 5 years of company. But they want to go home. They want their daughter to know they didn't abandon her. Their daughter, I ask. Dr. Whitcomb is typing frantically now. Elowen Quill. She was 10 years old when her parents died. She's 15 now. Lives with her grandmother in Portland, according to this. He looks up at Marigold. You're saying her parents are still in the river? That the people they buried weren't actually Thaddeus and Sable Quill? The river took others that day, Marigold says, and she's fading now. Literally fading. Becoming translucent. The water that soaked her clothes is evaporating impossibly fast, turning to mist that rises around her like smoke. Before the bridge fell, a week before, 2 hikers, missing, presumed drowned upstream. The river brought them down to where we were. Similar age, similar build. In the dark, in the water, in the panic of recovery, mistakes were made. Easy mistakes, understandable mistakes, but wrong. And Thaddeus and Sable are still there, still waiting, still hoping someone will find them and take them home. How do you know this? Dr. Whitcomb asks. How can you be sure? Marigold smiles, and it's a sad, waterlogged expression. Because I've been down there with them for 5 years. Because in death underwater, the veil is thinner. We can see things, know things. The living can't hear us scream, can't see us point. But today, November 15th, on the anniversary, the door opened. Just for a moment. Just long enough. Find them, please. 3 miles downstream from the bridge, east bank, under the fallen oak. You'll know it because the current creates a small eddy there. Their car is 15 feet down, still locked, still intact. Thaddeus is still holding Sable's hand. She's almost completely transparent now, just a shimmer in the air above the stretcher, and the water that had soaked everything is gone, evaporated or absorbed, or returned to wherever it came from. The trauma bay floor is dry. The paramedics' uniforms are dry. It's as if the water never existed, except for the small puddles I can see in my memory, the feeling of dampness that's already fading from my mind like a dream upon waking. Tell Elowen. Marigold's voice is barely a whisper now. Tell her that her parents loved her more than anything, that their last thoughts were of her, that they tried to get out, tried to swim up, but the car was pinned. Tell her they went together, holding hands, and they weren't afraid because they had each other. Tell her to look in her father's jacket pocket when they recover the bodies. He was carrying something for her. A birthday present. Her 11th birthday was the next week. He never got to give it to her. And then Marigold Keene is gone. completely vanished, leaving only the faintest smell of river water and the memory of those tracking eyes. The stretcher is empty, the sheets dry and clean as if no patient had ever been there. Amos Blackwell and his partner are staring at the empty space, their faces pale. "Did we just—" Amos starts, but he can't finish the sentence. "We witnessed something," Dr. Whitcomb says carefully. "Something that requires action. Lark, get me the county sheriff's office. We need to talk to whoever handled the bridge collapse investigation." It takes 3 phone calls and a lot of convincing, but by 4:30 a.m., I've managed to connect with the detective who worked the original case. His name is Hollis Devereaux, and he sounds tired and skeptical when I explain why I'm calling. But when I mention the specific location, 3 miles downstream East Bank, under a fallen oak, he goes quiet. "How do you know about the fallen oak?" he asks finally. "That's not in any public records. It fell 2 years after the accident. How could you possibly know about it?" "I can't explain that," I say honestly, "but I'm asking you, please, send a dive team. Check the location. If there's nothing there, you can write me off as a crazy night shift nurse and we'll never speak again. But if there's something, it means we buried the wrong people," he says quietly. "It means we told a little girl her parents were found and laid to rest, and we were wrong. It means they've been down there all this time, and we stopped looking too soon." Jesus Christ. "Will you check?" I press. "I'll check," he says. "But this needs to stay quiet until we know for sure. If you're wrong, if this is some kind of hoax, I don't want to put that family through more pain. Give me your contact information. I'll call you when we know something." I give him my cell number and hang up, feeling both relieved and terrified. What if I'm wrong? What if Marigold's ghost or hallucination or whatever she was gave me false information? What if there's nothing 3 miles downstream and I've sent police on a wild goose chase based on the testimony of a woman who's been dead for 5 years? Dr. Whitcomb puts a hand on my shoulder. "You did the right thing," he says. "Even if nothing comes of it, you did the right thing. That's all we can do." The rest of the night passes slowly. I keep checking my phone, expecting a call telling me they found nothing, that I wasted everyone's time. But the call doesn't come. When my shift ends at 7 o'clock a.m., I drive home in the gray morning light. And I can't stop thinking about Thaddeus and Sable Quill, sitting in their car 15 feet underwater for 5 years, holding hands, waiting to be found. The call comes 3 days later. It's Detective Devereaux, and his voice is shaking. "We found them," he says. "Exactly where you said. 3 miles downstream, East Bank, under the fallen oak. The car was pinned by debris, completely hidden from the surface. We never would have found them if you hadn't told us exactly where to look. Jesus Christ, Lark, we buried the wrong people. We identified 2 hikers as Thaddeus and Sable Quill, and we buried them and closed the case." I'm sitting in my apartment, coffee cup frozen halfway to my mouth. Was it definitely them? Dental records confirm it's them. Still in the car, just like you said. And Lark, Thaddeus was holding something. In his jacket pocket, a small jewelry box. We opened it. It's a necklace with a pendant that says Elowen. Her birthday present. He was bringing it home to her. I start crying, not even sure why. Relief, maybe, or grief for 5 years lost, or wonder at the impossible thing that happened in my ER 3 nights ago. How is she? How is Elowen? We haven't told her yet. We're waiting until we can do proper identification, make absolutely sure. But Lark, you gave this family closure they never had. You brought them home. However you knew, whatever happened that night in your ER, you saved them from being lost forever. It wasn't me, I say. It was Marigold. She's the one who stayed with them, who kept them company for 5 years. She's the one who found a way to tell us. Marigold Keene's family will want to know too, Devereaux says. We're resuming the search for her vehicle. If we can find Thaddeus and Sable, maybe we can find her too. Maybe we can bring all of them home. They do find Marigold 2 weeks later. Her car is half a mile downstream from where Thaddeus and Sable were found, buried in silt but still intact. They bring her body up, finally, after 5 years in the river, and she's laid to rest beside her parents in a ceremony that the entire town attends. I go, standing in the back, watching as people who loved her say their goodbyes to someone who's been gone so long. Elowen Quill is there too, with her grandmother, and I watch as they bury her parents properly this time, with the right bodies in the right graves. Elowen is wearing the necklace her father was bringing her, the one he kept safe even as his car filled with water, even in his final moments. She touches it constantly as if making sure it's real, as if connecting with the father she lost 5 years ago. After the service, she approaches me. Somehow, she knows who I am. Detective Devereaux told me, she says, that you're the one who told them where to look. He said he couldn't explain how you knew, but that you saved us. You brought my parents home. I don't know what to say. How do you tell a 15-year-old that her mother's ghost appeared in your ER, dripping river water and carrying messages from the dead? I'm just glad they were found, I say finally. I'm glad you got to bring them home. They were holding hands, she says, and tears are streaming down her face. Detective Devereaux said when the divers found them, they were holding hands. That's how I know they weren't scared. That's how I know they were together at the end. Thank you. Thank you for telling someone. Thank you for making someone look. She hugs me, this girl who lost her parents twice. Once, 5 years ago, and again 2 weeks ago when the truth finally came out. And I hold her while she cries. Over her shoulder, I can see the river in the distance, gray and cold and full of secrets. How many others are down there, I wonder? How many more are waiting to be found? Waiting for their anniversary to roll around? Waiting for the door to open just wide enough to slip through? That night, I'm back at work, back in the ER, and when 03 o'clock rolls around, I'm not surprised when the lights flicker. I'm not surprised when I feel that familiar cold sensation, that awareness of someone or something watching from the spaces between. I've become the designated witness, the one who can see what others can't, who can hear the messages that the dead need to deliver. The radio crackles with static, and I listen, waiting for whatever comes next, waiting for the next impossible patient, the next unfinished story, the next soul that needs help finding their way home. Because that's what I do now. That's what I've become. Not just a nurse, but a bridge between worlds. A translator for those who can't speak for themselves anymore. The ER at 03 Agui has become my church, and the patients who come through its doors are my congregation. Some of them are alive. Some of them are dead. Some of them are somewhere in between. But they all need help, and I'm here to give it. The static resolves into a voice, different from Marigold's, different from Hester's, different from Wren's. A man's voice, young and frightened. Sacred Heart ER, this is... I don't know what this is. I don't know how I'm talking to you, but I need help. My name is Ephraim Calder, and I'm lost. I've been lost for so long. Can you hear me? Please, can anyone hear me? I pick up the handset. I hear you, Ephraim, I say. This is Lark at Sacred Heart ER. I hear you and I can help. Tell me what you need. There's a sound like sobbing, like relief and desperation mixed together. Thank God, he says. Thank God someone can finally hear me. I've been trying for so long. Lark, I need you to find my sister. I need you to tell her I'm sorry. Tell her it wasn't her fault. She thinks it was her fault, but it wasn't. None of it was. Can you do that? Can you find her and tell her? I can do that, I promise, pulling out my notebook, ready to write down whatever information he gives me. Tell me about your sister, Ephraim. Tell me how to find her. And he does. The voice on the radio tells me everything, and I write it all down. Every detail, every message, every piece of unfinished business that needs completing. Because this is what I do now. This is my purpose, my calling, my burden, and my gift. I am Lark Pennington, ER nurse at Sacred Heart Hospital, and at 03 o'clock in the morning, when the veil between worlds grows thin, I am the one who answers the call. I am the one who listens. I am the one who helps them find their way home. The clock reads 03 o'clock, and it will read 03 o'clock for as long as it takes. Time is different here, in this space between heartbeats, between breaths, between life and whatever comes after. And I have work to do. Ephraim Calder is waiting, and after him, there will be others. There are always others. The river of the dead runs deep, and sometimes it overflows its banks, spilling into places like this. Places where the living and the dead can meet, can talk, can find resolution. I take a deep breath, grip my pen, and prepare to write down everything Ephraim needs to tell me. His story, like all the others, deserves to be heard. His message, like all the others, deserves to be delivered. I'm ready, I tell him. Tell me everything. And in the static, underneath the fear and the longing and the desperate hope, I hear him begin to speak. The digital clock above the supply cabinet flips to 03 o'clock just as the call button lights up for exam room 7. I'm alone at the nurse's station. The rest of the ER is quiet, except for the rhythmic beeping of monitors from the observation wing and the low hum of the vending machine down the hall. Exam room 7 has been empty since midnight when we discharged a teenager with a sprained ankle. I know it's empty because I restocked it myself 20 minutes ago, checking that everything was in its place before locking the door. The call button blinks again. 3 short pulses, then steady. I pull up the room status on the computer. It shows unoccupied, last patient discharged at 0:47, room cleaned and secured at 02:38. But the call button doesn't lie. Someone or something is pressing it. I grab my ID badge and a pen light, walking down the corridor where the fluorescent lights buzz with that particular frequency that always makes my teeth ache during night shifts. The linoleum under my shoes is still damp from where housekeeping mopped, and my reflection in the darkened windows looks pale and stretched. The door to exam room 7 is closed, but not locked. I'm certain I locked it. The handle turns easily under my palm, and when I push the door open, the room is exactly as I left it. Examination table with fresh paper, blood pressure cuff coiled neatly on its hook, the small sink gleaming under the overhead light. Everything is in perfect order, except for the call button panel on the wall, which shows a steady red light indicating it's been activated. I cross to the panel and press the reset button. The light goes dark. The room smells wrong, not the usual antiseptic and latex, but something organic and sweet, like overripe fruit left in the sun. I check the trash can, the cabinets under the sink, even peer behind the examination table. Nothing. The smell is stronger near the small desk in the corner where we keep the admission forms and a computer terminal. On the desk, tucked under the keyboard, is a piece of paper that wasn't there before. It's a patient information form, partially filled out in handwriting that looks old-fashioned, with elaborate loops and careful spacing. The name section reads Wren Calloway, but the rest of the form is mostly blank except for a single line under reason for visit that says, "Please help her. She doesn't know she's gone." My skin goes cold. The handwriting is shaky but deliberate, and the ink looks fresh, still slightly damp in places. I pick up the form, and as I do, I notice something else. There are watermarks on the desk. Small, circular drops arranged in a pattern, as if someone had been crying over the paper while writing. But the drops aren't water. They're too thick, too dark. I touch one with my finger and it comes away red. The call button lights up again behind me. When I turn, the examination table isn't empty anymore. There's an indentation in the fresh paper, a clear outline of someone lying down, the paper crinkled and depressed as if bearing weight. But there's no one there. The depression deepens as I watch, the paper tearing slightly where the head would rest, and I can hear breathing, soft, labored, the kind of breathing that comes with severe respiratory distress. I should call security. I should leave the room and get Dr. Rowan Whitcomb, who's on duty tonight. But instead, I find myself speaking to the empty examination table. "Wren? Is your name Wren Calloway?" The breathing stops. The indentation in the paper remains, but the room has gone completely silent. Even the hum of the fluorescent light seems muted, as if the air itself has thickened. Then, very slowly, the paper begins to tear where the head rests, a thin line splitting down the center. I take a step back, my hand reaching for the door, but I can't look away. The tear in the paper spreads, and through it, I can see something. Not the vinyl surface of the examination table, but something else, something dark and moving, like water in a deep well. The sweet smell intensifies, making my eyes water, and I realize it's not fruit I'm smelling. It's infection, the specific putrid sweetness of necrotic tissue. "I can't help you if I can't see you," I hear myself saying, my voice steadier than I feel. "Wren, if you're here, I need you to show me where it hurts." The room temperature drops so suddenly that I can see my breath. The depression in the paper shifts, sitting up now, and I watch as the blood pressure cuff slowly uncoils itself from its hook and floats in the air, moving as if carried by invisible hands. It positions itself around empty space, and then the Velcro fastens with a sharp ripping sound. The automated cuff begins to inflate on its own, squeezing around nothing, and the machine beeps as it registers a reading, 160/95, hypertensive. The pulse reading flashes, 142 beats per minute. Tachycardic. I'm documenting vital signs for a patient I cannot see. The computer terminal on the desk flickers to life, and words begin appearing on the screen as if someone is typing. But the keyboard isn't moving. The words come slowly, letter by letter. Accident on Route 26. 3 days ago. Didn't make it to hospital. Family doesn't know. My hands are shaking as I pull out my phone and search for accidents on Route 26. 3 days ago was Tuesday. The search results load, and there it is, a single vehicle collision. Car went off the road into a ravine. Driver transported to County Memorial but died en route. Name withheld pending family notification. The article is dated 3 days ago, but it says the family has been notified as of this morning. Someone named Wren Calloway died on the way to a hospital, and somehow she ended up here instead. "Wren," I say softly, looking at the empty space where the blood pressure cuff hovers. "Your family knows. They were notified today. You can go now." The cuff deflates with a long hiss and drops to the floor. For a moment, nothing happens. Then the paper on the examination table smooths itself out, the tears and indentations fading as if they were never there. The temperature rises back to normal, and the sweet smell begins to dissipate. But before it's completely gone, I feel something. A hand on my shoulder, cold and gentle, and in my ear, a whisper so faint I might have imagined it. Thank you, but there are others. The lights flicker once, and the room is empty again. Truly empty this time. I pick up the patient form from the desk, but the writing has faded, leaving only blank spaces where the name and message had been. The blood drops are gone too, leaving only the faint water stains. I check the computer terminal, but the screen is dark, showing only the standard login prompt. There's no record of the words that appeared. I should report this. Fill out an incident report about malfunctioning equipment and hallucinations brought on by exhaustion. But I pocket the blank form instead and reset the call button one more time. As I'm leaving, I glance back at the examination table. The paper is smooth and clean, ready for the next patient. But in the very center, so small I almost miss it, there's a single red drop that wasn't there before. I close the door behind me, and this time I don't lock it. Something tells me I might need to come back. The clock above the supply cabinet still reads 03 Hunqua, as if no time has passed at all, but my watch shows 03:17. Somewhere, 17 minutes have gone into a space I can't account for. The ER is still quiet, but it feels different now, like the silence is watching me, waiting to see what I'll do next. The call button for exam room 7 remains dark, but as I walk back to the nurse's station, I can hear it. Faint and distant, like an echo from somewhere that isn't quite here. The sound of someone crying, soft and hopeless, the way people cry when they think no one can hear them. And underneath that, barely audible, the whisper repeats, "There are others." I sit down at the nurse's station and open a new browser tab, searching for recent accidents, missing persons, unsolved cases. The list is longer than I want to think about. Names and faces scrolling past, each one a story that ended somewhere between here and wherever they were going. I think about Wren Calloway, who died on the way to County Memorial but somehow found her way to our ER instead. I think about the message she left. Please help her. She doesn't know she's gone. Her. Not me, someone else. The computer screen flickers, and for just a moment, I see a reflection that isn't mine. A woman's face, young and frightened, with dark hair matted with blood. She's looking at me through the screen, and her lips are moving, forming words I can't hear. Then she's gone, and it's just my own tired reflection staring back. I pull out the blank form from my pocket and smooth it on the desk. As I watch, letters begin to appear, faint at first, then darker. The same elaborate handwriting, forming a different name this time. Opaline Mercer, room 12. She's waiting. Room 12 is at the end of the hall, past the observation wing, in the section we don't use anymore because of the mold problem in the ventilation system. It's been locked and marked off limits for 2 months while facilities works on remediation. But as I look down the darkened corridor, I can see a light coming from under the door of room 12. A flickering, uncertain light, like a candle burning in a draft. The call button for room 12 lights up on my console. 3 short pulses, then steady. Exactly like room 7. I should wake Dr. Whitcomb. I should call security and report that someone has broken into a closed section of the hospital. But I already know what I'm going to find when I open that door. Not a trespasser or a confused patient. Something else. Someone else. Another person who ended up here when they were supposed to end up somewhere else. Another unfinished journey. Another message that needs to be delivered. The ER feels different at EO3 Aqua. The boundary between what is and what was becomes thinner, more permeable. People who died on their way to help can slip through, looking for the closure they never got. and somehow tonight they're all finding their way to me. I stand up, leaving the form on the desk where the name continues to darken. Opaline Mercer, room 12. She's waiting. The corridor stretches ahead, longer than it should be, and the flickering light under the door of room 12 pulses like a heartbeat. Slow and steady and patient. As I walk toward it, I can feel them, all the others that Ren mentioned. They're here in the spaces between the rooms, in the dark corners where the lights don't quite reach, in the reflection of the windows and the static on the monitors, waiting for someone to see them, to hear them, to help them finish what they started. The clock still reads 003 Kai. It will probably read 03 and Twag for a while longer. Time moves differently for those who are caught between destinations, and tonight, I've become their destination. The final stop for journeys that ended too soon. I reach the door to room 12 and wrap my fingers around the handle. It's cold, much colder than it should be, and I can hear something on the other side. Not crying this time. Humming. A soft, tuneless melody that might have been a lullaby once. The kind of song you sing to make yourself feel less alone in the dark. The door opens easily, and the light inside isn't a candle at all. It's coming from the monitor above the empty bed, displaying vital signs for a patient who isn't there. Heart rate, 0. Blood pressure, 000, oxygen saturation, 0. And underneath all the zeros, a name on the display, Mercer, Opaline. She's waiting, just like the form said. And judging by the dates on the monitor, she's been waiting for a very long time. The elevator has been making sounds for the past 20 minutes, and that's how I know something is wrong with it even before the doors open on the ground floor and reveal what's inside. It's not the normal mechanical sounds of an elevator in operation, the cables and pulleys, and the soft whoosh of the car moving through the shaft. It's something else entirely, something organic and unsettling, like breathing or whispering, or the rustle of fabric against skin. The elevator serves the upper floors where we keep overflow patients and administrative offices, and at 03 o'clock in the morning, there should be no one using it. The upper floors are empty this time of night, locked down, the lights dimmed to save energy. But the elevator keeps moving, up and down, and every time it passes the ER level, I can hear those sounds, getting louder each time, more insistent, as if whatever is inside is trying very hard to get my attention. I've been ignoring it, telling myself it's just mechanical issues, just the building settling, just my exhausted mind finding patterns in random noise. But when the clock ticks over to 03 Aku exactly, the elevator stops. The display above the doors shows it's on the 5th floor, the very top of the building, and it stays there. 1 minute passes, 2 minutes, 3, and then it begins its descent, and I can hear something new in the sounds it makes. Footsteps. Slow, deliberate footsteps, pacing back and forth inside the elevator car as it descends, 5th floor to 4th floor. The footsteps continue, a steady rhythm that matches no human gait I've ever heard. Too slow, too measured, with odd pauses as if the person walking is stopping to look at something, or listening for something, or counting the seconds between steps. 4th floor to 3rd floor. Now there's another sound joining the footsteps. Humming. A tuneless, monotonous humming that rises and falls without pattern or purpose. The kind of sound someone makes when they're alone and trying to fill the silence with anything. Even meaningless noise. 3rd floor to 2nd floor. The humming stops abruptly, and I hear something that makes my skin crawl. A child's laughter. High-pitched and bright and completely incongruous with the hour and the location and the wrongness of everything about this situation. It's not joyful laughter. It's the kind of laughter that comes from hysteria, from something broken inside that can only express itself through inappropriate sounds. Second floor to ground floor. The elevator slows, preparing to arrive at the ER level, and all the sounds stop. Complete silence. The display shows the car is level with the ground floor, and the doors begin to open with their familiar ding, and I'm standing there watching. My hand hovering over the panic button that will summon security, ready to see whatever nightmare has been riding this elevator up and down for the past 20 minutes. The elevator is empty. Completely, utterly empty. Just the standard gray walls, the handrails, the inspection certificate in its plastic frame. No person, no child, no source for the footsteps, or the humming, or the laughter. The overhead light flickers once, twice, and then steadies. The temperature in the immediate area has dropped. I can feel it. That pocket of cold air that spills out of the elevator and rolls across the floor like fog. I should call maintenance. I should call security. I should do a dozen things that would be rational and reasonable. Instead, I step into the elevator, and the doors close behind me with a finality that feels like a decision being made. A door being shut that can't be reopened. The panel shows buttons for floors 1 through 5, and there's something written on the wall beside the buttons. Something that wasn't there a moment ago when I looked from outside. It's written in condensation, as if someone with very cold hands pressed their palm against the wall and then traced letters in the moisture. Room 519. She's still waiting. Been waiting since 2007. 17 years ago. I feel that familiar sensation now, the one I've felt with every impossible patient tonight. The certainty that I'm being pulled into something, that I've been chosen somehow to witness, and to help, and to serve as a bridge between what is and what was. My hand moves to the button for the 5th floor, and I press it before I can talk myself out of it. The elevator begins to rise, and immediately the sounds return. The footsteps, pacing back and forth, but I'm alone in the car. The humming, soft and sad, but there's no one here to produce it. The child's laughter just once, brief and sharp like a sob. The elevator feels smaller than it did a moment ago, as if the walls are pressing in, and I can see my breath now, small clouds that dissipate slowly in the cold air. The display counts upward. 2nd floor, 3rd floor, 4th floor, and then, between the 4th and 5th floors, the elevator stops. Just stops, suspended in the shaft, and the lights go out completely. Total darkness. The kind of darkness that feels alive, that presses against your eyes and fills your mouth and makes you question whether you still exist at all. "Hello?" I say, and my voice sounds small and insignificant in the dark. "Is someone here?" A voice answers, and it's coming from everywhere at once, from the walls, from the floor, from the very air itself. A woman's voice, young but tired, so terribly tired. "You came. I knew someone would come eventually. If I waited long enough, if I was patient enough, someone would finally come." "Who are you?" I ask, trying to keep my voice steady. "What's your name?" "Junia," the voice says. "Junia Fairweather. I've been waiting in room 519 since October 12th, 2007. That's when I died. That's when my body died, at least. But I couldn't leave. I had a baby, you see. My daughter. She was only 2 months old. I couldn't leave her alone. Someone had to watch over her." The lights flicker back on, dim and sickly, and I can see something now. Not a person, not exactly, but a presence. A distortion in the air, a shadow that doesn't match any object, hovering in the corner of the elevator. It shifts and moves like smoke, like something trying very hard to become solid but not quite managing it. "Junia, I say gently. Where's your daughter now? Home, with her father. With my husband Bram. But he doesn't know. He doesn't know that I'm still here, still watching, still trying to protect her. Every night I go back to the house, but I can't get inside. I can only watch through the windows. I can see her growing up without me, and I can't touch her, can't hold her, can't tell her that I love her. The elevator shudders and begins moving again, continuing its ascent to the 5th floor. Why can't you leave? I ask. Why are you still here? Because I didn't say goodbye. Because when I died, it was so sudden. I was here for a routine procedure, something simple, something safe. But there were complications. Unexpected complications. One moment I was counting backward from 10, and the next moment I was standing beside my body, watching them try to revive me, watching them fail. And then everyone left, and I was alone, and I realized I would never see my baby again. Never hold her again. Never tell her all the things a mother is supposed to tell her daughter. The elevator reaches the 5th floor, and the doors open onto a hallway I've never seen before. This floor was closed down in 2015, converted from patient rooms to storage and administrative offices. But what I'm seeing now isn't storage or offices. It's a hospital floor from nearly 2 decades ago, fully operational, lights on. Nurses' station occupied by shadows that might be people or might be memories. The floor is carpeted in that particular pattern of blue and gray that hospitals haven't used since the early 2000s. And the air smells wrong, not like the antiseptic cleanliness of a modern hospital, but like something older, something that's been closed up and forgotten. Room 509, the voice says. And I see a figure now, partially solid, standing at the end of the hallway. A woman in a hospital gown, young, with long dark hair, and a face that's both present and absent, like a photograph that's been exposed to light for too long. Come, please. I need to show you something. I follow her down the hallway, past rooms that are both empty and occupied, both closed and open, existing in multiple states simultaneously. Room 515 has a patient in the bed, an elderly man sleeping peacefully. But when I blink, the room is empty and dark. Room 517 has nurses moving in and out, attending to someone I can't quite see, but their movements are jerky and repetitive, like a video stuck in a loop, playing the same 3 seconds over and over. Room 519 is at the very end of the hallway, and its door is closed. The figure of Junia Fairweather stands before it, one hand pressed against the wood, and I can see through her now, can see the grain of the door through her translucent palm. This is where I died, she says. This is where everything ended and where everything began. They took me in for a simple procedure, gallbladder removal, routine surgery. But something went wrong. The anesthesiologist made a mistake. Or maybe my body just reacted wrong to the drugs. No one's fault, really, just bad luck, just one of those terrible things that happens sometimes. She opens the door, and inside, the room is frozen in time. There's a hospital bed with medical equipment surrounding it, monitors that show flatlined readings, an IV stand with bags of fluid that should have been discarded 17 years ago. And on the bed, there's an impression, a body-shaped depression in the sheets, as if someone invisible is lying there still. That's where I was, Junia says, pointing to the bed. That's where I died at 3:23 in the morning. Bram was in the waiting room. He didn't know. They hadn't told him yet. He was just sitting there reading a magazine, thinking I'd be out soon and we'd go home and everything would be fine. And I died alone, without him, without saying goodbye to him or to our daughter Tamsin, without telling them how much I loved them. I step into the room, and immediately I feel it. the weight of 17 years of grief and longing and frustrated love. The air is thick with it, pressing down on me, making it hard to breathe. Junia, I say carefully, your daughter. Tamsin. She's grown now. She's 19 years old. Does she know what happened to you? She knows I died, Junia says. And she's crying now, tears that fall like rain and disappear before they hit the floor. But she doesn't remember me. She was too young, 2 months old. How can you remember someone from when you were 2 months old? Bram remarried. A woman named Sable. Sable is the only mother Tamsin has ever known. And that's good, that's right. Tamsin deserves a mother who can hold her and be there for her. But I just wish I could have had more time. I wish I could have said goodbye properly. I pull out my phone and search for Bram Fairweather, Tamsin Fairweather, trying to find some trace of this family. The results come up slowly, and what I find makes my heart ache. Bram Fairweather, widowed 2007, remarried 2010 to Sable Ashcroft. One daughter, Tamsin, from his first marriage. They live 2 towns over, in a small house near the elementary school where Tamsin once attended. There are photos, family photos from social media, showing a happy family. Bram, older now but smiling. Sable, kind-faced and warm. And Tamsin, a beautiful young woman with her mother's dark hair and her father's eyes. She looks happy, I say, showing the phone to Junia, though I'm not sure if she can see it. Your daughter looks happy and healthy. You did well, Junia, even though you couldn't be there, even though you couldn't raise her. She's turned out wonderfully. Junia moves closer, and I can feel the cold radiating from her, can feel the desperate longing. Show me more, she whispers. Show me her life. Show me everything I missed. So I do. I scroll through Tamsin's social media, through years of photos and posts and moments. Birthday parties and school plays and graduations. Her first day of high school, her prom dress, her acceptance letter to college. 17 years of life, condensed into a few hundred images, and Junia watches all of it, her translucent form hovering beside me, taking in every detail. She plays soccer, Junia says, pointing to a photo of Tamsin in a uniform. I always hoped she'd be athletic. I played soccer in high school. She's studying marine biology, I say, showing her a post about Tamsin's college major. She wants to save the oceans. That's beautiful, Junia whispers. That's perfect. She's going to do wonderful things. We go through more photos and I can feel Junia changing beside me, becoming somehow more present and more absent at the same time. The weight of her grief is lifting, replaced by something else. Pride, love, acceptance. There's one from last week, I say, finding a recent post. It's Tamsin at the beach, standing on rocks with the ocean behind her, arms spread wide, face turned toward the sun. The caption reads, "Mom would have loved this. Thinking of you today, Junia Fairweather. Wish you could see how beautiful the world is." Junia goes completely still. She thinks about me, she says, her voice breaking. She remembers me, but how? She was so small. Bram told her about you, I say, scrolling to find more posts. There are others scattered through the years. Mother's Day posts mentioning both Sable and Junia. Birthday posts thanking Sable for being there and thanking Junia for giving her life. Anniversary posts on October 12th, the day Junia died, remembering and honoring her. He kept my memory alive, Junia says, and she's sobbing now, her form flickering like a candle in the wind. He didn't let her forget. He made sure she knew about me. Oh God, I've been so worried, so afraid that I'd be forgotten, that I'd disappear completely. But she knows, she remembers, she thinks about me. She loves you, I say. Even though she never got to know you, she loves you. That's clear in every post. Junia reaches out, and for just a moment, I feel her hand on mine. It's cold, so cold it almost burns, but it's also gentle, grateful. Thank you, she says. Thank you for showing me. Thank you for letting me see that my daughter is okay, that she's happy, that she hasn't forgotten me. That's all I needed. That's all I've been waiting for. To know that I mattered, that my life, even though it was cut short, meant something. The room begins to change around us. The medical equipment fades, becoming transparent, and the walls lighten, losing their solidity. What's happening? I ask. I can go now, Junia says, and she's smiling, a real smile, bright and peaceful. I've been holding on for so long, afraid to leave because I thought if I left, if I let go, I'd be completely forgotten. But now I know. Now I've seen. Tamsin remembers. Bram remembered. I'm not forgotten. I never was. And that means I can let go. I can finally rest. Wait, I say, because suddenly I realize this is goodbye. This is the moment when she leaves, and I'll never see her again. Is there anything you want me to tell them? Any message? Junia thinks for a moment, her form growing fainter with each passing second. Tell Tamsin, she says slowly. Tell her that I'm proud of her. Tell her that I've been watching over her, that I've seen every moment, every achievement, every joy and every sorrow. Tell her that her first word was Mama, and that she said it 3 times on October 11th, the day before I died, as if she knew she needed to say it while I could still hear it. Tell her that I held her for hours that last day, memorizing every detail, every tiny finger and toe, every expression, storing up memories for however long I had left. Tell her that even though I died, my love didn't die. It stayed. It's been here all along, wrapped around her like invisible arms, keeping her safe. I'm crying now, tears running down my face, and I nod. I'll tell her, I promise. And tell Bram, Junia continues, her voice growing distant. Tell him thank you. Thank you for remembering me. Thank you for making sure Tamsin knew about me. Thank you for loving me enough to keep my memory alive, even while building a new life with someone else. Tell him I never blamed him for remarrying. Tell him I'm happy he found Sable, that I'm grateful Tamsin had a mother who could be there for all the things I couldn't be there for. Tell him he did everything right. The room is almost completely transparent now, and through the walls I can see the modern hospital, the real 5th floor as it exists now, dark and converted to storage. I'll tell them, I promise. I'll make sure they know. Thank you, Lark, Junia says, and I realize I never told her my name. She just knows the way the dead seem to know things the living can't. Thank you for being the bridge. Thank you for being the one who listens. There are more coming, you know. More who need help. More who are waiting for someone who can see them, hear them, help them finish what they started. You're going to be busy. I know, I say. I'm ready. Junia Fairweather smiles one last time, and then she's gone. Completely, finally gone. The room snaps back to its present state, empty and dark and dusty, clearly unused for years. The medical equipment is gone, the bed is gone, there's nothing left but empty space and the faint smell of disinfectant from long ago. I stand there for a moment, catching my breath, letting the weight of what just happened settle over me. Another ghost. Another unfinished story. Another soul that needed help finding peace. And I was there. I was able to help. That's becoming my role, I realize. My purpose. In this strange overlap of worlds that happens at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm the translator, the witness, the one who can see both sides and help them communicate. The elevator is still waiting when I step back into the hallway. The doors are open, as if it knew I'd be coming back, as if it's been patiently holding its place for me. I step inside, press the button for the ground floor, and the elevator begins its descent. No footsteps this time, no humming, no laughter, just the normal mechanical sounds of an elevator in operation. When the doors open on the ER level, Dr. Whitcomb is there, holding a cup of coffee and looking exhausted. "Where did you go?" he asks. "I've been looking for you for the past 20 minutes. "The 5th floor," I say. "I had to help someone." He doesn't ask for details. He's learned not to ask for details when I say things like that. He just nods, hands me the coffee and says, "We have a patient coming in, possible stroke, ETA 7 minutes. Think you can handle it?" "Of course," I say, taking the coffee gratefully. That's what I do. I help people. The living and the dead, I think, but don't say. I help whoever needs it, whatever form they take, whatever world they're coming from. The next 3 days pass in a blur of normal ER work. Broken bones and heart attacks and flu cases and the usual chaos of emergency medicine. No ghosts, no impossible patients, no messages from beyond. Just regular people with regular problems, and I'm almost disappointed. I've gotten used to the strangeness, to the sense of being part of something larger than just medicine. The mundane feels somehow lacking now. But on the 4th day, I keep my promise. I look up Bram Fairweather's address and drive there on my day off, rehearsing what I'm going to say. How do you tell someone that you spoke with their dead wife? How do you deliver messages from a ghost without sounding completely insane? The house is small but well-maintained, with a neat front yard and children's bikes on the porch even though the children who rode them are grown now. I knock on the door, my heart pounding, and a woman answers. Sable. I recognize her from the photos. She's in her early 50s with kind eyes and a gentle smile. "Can I help you?" she asks. "My name is Lark Pennington. I'm a nurse at Sacred Heart Hospital. I was hoping to speak with Bram Fairweather. Is he home?" Her expression shifts to concern. "Is something wrong? Is someone hurt?" "No, nothing like that. I have some information I think he'd want to hear about his first wife, Junia." Sable's face softens. "Come in," she says. "Bram is in the study. I'll get him." She leads me into a comfortable living room filled with photos. I can see the story of this family in those frames. Bram and Junia when they were young. Bram and Sable on their wedding day. Tamsin as a baby, a toddler, a child, a teenager. Both mothers are represented, both honored. It's clear that this family has found a way to hold space for all the love they've shared, past and present. Bram comes out of the study, a man in his late 50s with graying hair and the careful movements of someone who's experienced deep loss. "You wanted to talk about Junia," he says, and his voice is cautious but not hostile. I take a deep breath. "This is going to sound impossible, but I need you to hear me out. 4 nights ago, I encountered your wife in the hospital. Not physically, not exactly, but she was there. She's been there, actually, for 17 years. Waiting, watching, unable to leave because she was afraid she'd be forgotten." Bram sits down slowly, his face pale. Sable moves to stand beside him, her hand on his shoulder. "Go on," he says quietly. I tell them everything. About the elevator, about room 599, about Junia's fear and her longing and her desperate need to know that she mattered, that she hadn't been forgotten. I show them the photos of Tamsin that I used to help Junia see her daughter's life. and I watch as Bram's eyes fill with tears. "She's been there all this time?" he whispers. "She's been watching?" "She was," I say. "But she's at peace now. She saw that Tamsin remembers her, that you kept her memory alive. That was what she needed. And she asked me to tell you things." I relay Junia's messages, every word I can remember. Bram is crying openly now, and Sable is crying too, her arm around him, supporting him through this impossible moment. "She's grateful," I finish. "She wants you to know that you did everything right, that she's happy Tamsin had you both, that she never blamed you for moving on. I never forgot her," Bram says, his voice breaking. "I could never forget her, but I also had to live. I had to give Tamsin a stable home, a mother who could be there. Sable has been everything to us, everything, but I always made sure Tamsin knew about Junia. That was important to me, that Junia's memory stayed alive. She knows," I say. "And because of that, she can rest now. She can finally let go." We sit in silence for a long moment, all of us processing this impossible information. Finally, Sable speaks. "Thank you for coming here. Thank you for telling us. I know how crazy this must sound, how unbelievable, but somehow I believe you. And I think Junia would be glad to know that her family is here, together, honoring her memory. There's one more thing," I say. "Tamsin, does she know the details of how her mother died?" "She knows the basics," Bram says. "That there were complications during surgery, that it was quick, that Junia didn't suffer. Why? Because Junia wanted her to know something specific. She wanted Tamsin to know that her first word was Mama, and that she said it on October 11th, the day before Junia died. She wanted Tamsin to know that Junia held her for hours that last day, memorizing everything about her, storing up memories. She wanted Tamsin to know that even though she died, her love never did." Bram puts his face in his hands and sobs. Sable holds him, and I can see that this woman, who raised another woman's child as her own, who stepped into a life full of grief and loss and did her best to bring light to it, is crying too. Not from jealousy or insecurity, but from pure empathy, from the sadness of knowing that a young mother missed so much of her child's life. "I'll tell her," Bram says finally, wiping his eyes. "Tamsin is coming home from college next week for Thanksgiving. I'll tell her everything you told me. She'll want to know. She's always wanted to know more about Junia, about what her mother was like, what she thought and felt. This will mean everything to her." I leave them my contact information in case they have questions, and I drive home feeling lighter than I have in days. I helped Junia find peace, and in doing so, I helped her family too. I gave them a gift they didn't even know they needed. The knowledge that Junia had been watching, had seen everything, had been proud and grateful and full of love right up until the moment she finally let go. That night, I'm back at work, back in the ER, and when 03-UC comes around, I'm ready. I'm standing at the nurse's station waiting to see what will happen next. Who will need help next? What impossible patient will come through those doors, looking for the one person who can see them and hear them, and help them finish their unfinished business? The elevator dings, and the doors open. But this time it's empty. Truly empty. The sounds are gone, the cold is gone, the presence is gone. Junia has moved on, and whatever was holding her here has released its grip. Room 519 is just an empty room now, waiting to be converted to some other use, no longer a prison for a young mother's grief. But there will be others. There are always others. Ephraim Calder is still waiting for me to find his sister, and there will be more after him. More voices on the radio, more impossible patients, more ghosts who need someone to see them, to acknowledge them, to help them cross whatever final bridge they need to cross. I am that someone. I am Lark Pennington. and at 03 o'clock in the morning, I am the one who answers the call. The ER is quiet for now, but I know it won't last. Something is coming. Someone is coming. The dead have found a doorway, and that doorway is me, and my shift doesn't end until 7 o'clock a.m. 4 more hours. 4 more hours of standing on the threshold between worlds, ready to help whoever needs it, living or dead. I pour myself another cup of coffee, settle into my chair at the nurse's station, and wait. The night is young, and the dead are restless. And somewhere out there someone is looking for me, hoping I'll be there when they finally find the courage to come through that door and ask for help. I'll be here. I'll always be here. That's what I do. That's who I am now. The clock reads 03 Hunqui, and in this hospital, at this hour, anything is possible. The ambulance bay doors slide open with their familiar hydraulic hiss, and I feel the cold November air rush in, carrying with it the smell of rain and distant smoke. It's 03 Hunqui exactly when the paramedics wheel in the stretcher, and I know this because I've been watching the clock for the past 20 minutes, ever since I closed the door to room 12 and left whatever was waiting there for another time. Some nights you learn that not every question needs an immediate answer, and some doors are better left closed until you're ready for what's behind them. The woman on the stretcher is conscious, which is always preferable to the alternative, but there's something about the way she's lying there, perfectly still with her hands folded across her chest, that makes me think of funeral arrangements rather than emergency transport. She's maybe 60 years old, with silver hair that's been carefully braided despite whatever brought her here. Her clothes are outdated, not vintage or retro, but genuinely old, the kind of floral print dress that hasn't been in style for decades, and she's wearing it with stockings and sensible shoes that look like they've walked 1,000 miles. Found her sitting on a bench outside the main entrance, the lead paramedic says. His name is Cyrus Morrow, and I've worked with him enough times to know that when his voice has that particular tight quality, something about the call has bothered him. Says her name is Hester Loudon. Vitals are stable, no visible injuries, but she keeps insisting she needs to see a doctor about her husband. Says it's urgent. I take the chart he hands me and scan the information. Blood pressure normal, pulse steady, oxygen saturation perfect. No signs of distress or trauma. But in the section where paramedics note their observations, Cyrus has written something unusual. Patient claims to have walked from Memorial Gardens Cemetery, approximate 8 miles. No explanation for how she arrived at hospital. Check for confusion/dementia. Memorial Gardens is where we bury people in this town. It's not a place living patients typically walk from, especially not at 3 in the morning, and especially not elderly women in church dresses and stockings. Mrs. Loudon, I say, approaching the stretcher with my most reassuring smile. I'm Lark, one of the nurses here. Can you tell me what brought you in tonight? Her eyes open, and they're remarkably clear for someone who might be experiencing dementia or confusion. They're pale gray, the color of winter clouds, and they focus on me with an intensity that makes me want to step back. My husband, she says, and her voice is surprisingly strong. I need to see my husband. They told me he was brought here. There was an accident. When was your husband brought in, Mrs. Loudon? What's his name? Thomas Loudon. The accident was on Highway 9, just past the turnoff to Riverside Road. His car went into the ditch. They said he was unconscious but breathing. That was at 11:47 tonight. I need to see him. I need to tell him something important before it's too late. I pull up our admission records on the tablet, searching for Thomas Loudon. Nothing in the past 24 hours. Nothing in the past week. I expand the search to the entire month, then the entire year. No, Thomas Loudon has been admitted to our ER. Mrs. Loudon, I don't see any record of your husband being brought here. Are you sure they said this hospital? There's County Memorial about 15 miles south, and Regional Medical Center up north. She sits up on the stretcher with surprising agility, and Cyrus moves to steady her, but she waves him away. This hospital, she says firmly. They specifically said Sacred Heart Emergency Room. I heard them on the radio. The dispatcher said they were transporting a male, approximately 65 years old, unconscious, possible head trauma, to Sacred Heart ER. Estimated arrival 12:15 a.m. That's oddly specific. The kind of detail you don't usually get from confused patients. I checked the timestamps on our admission log. At 12:15 a.m., we did receive an ambulance, but it was a 32-year-old woman with appendicitis, not an elderly man with head trauma. Let me check with our charge nurse, I say. Maybe there was a diversion or a last-minute change. Can you wait here for just a moment? I find Dr. Whitcomb in the staff lounge, microwaving what looks like leftover Chinese food from 3 days ago. He's been on duty since 5 p.m. yesterday, and the exhaustion shows in the way he stands, shoulders slightly hunched, one hand braced against the counter as if he might fall over without the support. We have a strange one, I tell him, and I see a flicker of resignation in his eyes because at 3 o'clock in the morning, strange is never good. I explain about Hester Loudon, her missing husband, the accident that apparently never happened. She's very clear about the details, I say, not confused or disoriented. She knows the date, the time, where she is, but she's talking about an ambulance call that doesn't match our records. Delusion, he suggests, but he doesn't sound convinced. Family emergency. Maybe she got the hospitals confused, or the accident happened somewhere else and she's mistaken about where he was taken. Maybe, but Cyrus said she walked from Memorial Garden Cemetery. That's 8 miles, and she doesn't look like she just walked 8 miles. No mud on her shoes, no signs of fatigue. And her clothes, I pause, trying to find the right words. They look old, really old, like costume old. Dr. Whitcomb abandons his food and follows me back to the ambulance bay. Hester Loudon is still sitting on the stretcher, but now she's looking around with growing agitation. Where is everyone? She's asking Cyrus. Where are all the nurses? This place used to be so busy. There should be people everywhere. It's 3 in the morning, ma'am, Cyrus says. It's our quiet time. Most of the staff is— No, she interrupts. No, that's not right. When Thomas was brought in before, when he had his heart attack, this place was full, even at night. Nurses everywhere, doctors rushing around. This is wrong. This is all wrong. Her voice is rising, taking on an edge of panic. What year is this? What year? Dr. Whitcomb and I exchange glances. It's 2024, Mrs. Loudon, he says gently. November 15th, 2024. She goes very still. The color drains from her face, and for a moment I think she's going to faint. No, she whispers. No, that can't be right. It's 1987. It has to be 1987. The accident was tonight, November 15th, 1987. Thomas went off the road at 11:47 p.m. and they brought him here. I need to see him. I need to tell him I forgive him. 37 years ago. I feel something cold settle in my stomach, the same sensation I felt in room 7 when the blood pressure cuff inflated around empty space, when the call button lit up for a room that should have been empty. Mrs. Loudon, I say carefully, why do you think it's 1987? Because that's when Thomas died, she says, and now tears are running down her weathered cheeks. He died here, in this hospital. They brought him in unconscious and he never woke up. He died at 3:23 in the morning, and I never got to tell him that I forgave him for what he'd done. I've been so angry, you understand? When they took him away in the ambulance, I wouldn't go with him. I was too angry. I stayed home, and by the time I got here, he was already gone. Mrs. Loudon, Dr. Whitcomb says, his voice taking on that particular gentleness doctors use when they're about to deliver bad news. Can you tell me the last thing you remember before coming here tonight? She wipes her eyes with trembling fingers. I was at home, our house on Maple Street. I was sitting in the kitchen, angry and hurt, and the phone rang. The hospital calling to tell me about Thomas. I got dressed as fast as I could. I put on my Sunday dress because I wanted to look proper, even though I was so angry I could barely think. I called a taxi, but it was taking too long, so I started walking. And I walked, and then I was here. But everything looks different. The building looks different. Bigger, and everyone is dressed so strangely. I pull out my phone and do a search. Thomas Loudon, died 1987, Sacred Heart Hospital. The results come up immediately. Thomas William Loudon, age 65, died November 15, 1987, from head trauma sustained in a single vehicle accident. Survived by his wife, Hester Ann Loudon. And then another result from just 2 years later. Hester Ann Loudon, age 62, died March 3, 1989. Cause of death listed as heart failure. But the obituary mentions that she never recovered from the grief of losing her husband, that she'd spent the last years of her life in deep depression, rarely leaving their house on Maple Street. I show the phone to Dr. Whitcomb, and I watch his expression shift from concerned to disturbed. We're both thinking the same thing. The woman sitting in front of us, wearing a floral dress from 1987, claims to have walked from the cemetery where she's been buried for 35 years. Mrs. Loudon, I say, and my voice sounds strange even to me, too high and too careful. Do you know what Memorial Gardens is? Of course, she says. It's the cemetery off Highway 9. Thomas and I bought our plots there in 1985. We wanted to be sure we'd be buried together, no matter what happened. She pauses, and something shifts in her expression. A slow, dawning realization that makes her face crumble. Oh, she whispers. Oh no, I'm dead, aren't I? I died, and I've been dead for... How long have I been dead? 35 years, Dr. Whitcomb says quietly, and I want to kick him because how do you tell someone they've been dead for 35 years? But Hester just nods, as if this confirms something she's already suspected. I felt so strange, she says, walking here, like I was dreaming, like nothing was quite solid, and the taxi never came. I waited, and it never came, so I started walking. But I don't remember most of the walk, just suddenly being here at the doors and knowing I had to get inside. I have to find Thomas. I have to tell him I forgive him before he dies. That's why I'm here. That's why I came back. Mrs. Loudon, I say, and I'm holding her hand now, which feels warm and solid and completely real. Thomas died 37 years ago. You died 35 years ago. You're both gone. No, she says firmly. No, he hasn't died yet. It's 3 o'clock in the morning. He has 23 minutes. The nurse told me he died at 3:23. I have time. I can still reach him. I can still tell him. She's gripping my hand with surprising strength, and her eyes are desperate. Please, please, you have to let me see him. You have to let me find him before it's too late. I've waited so long, I've been so lost, but tonight, somehow, I'm here. The door opened, and I could come back. Just for tonight, just for these few minutes, please. Dr. Whitcomb pulls me aside, leaving Cyrus with Mrs. Loudon. This is impossible, he says, but he's seen the search results on my phone. He knows I'm not making this up. She can't be who she says she is. People don't come back from the dead. there's a rational explanation. Maybe it's a relative, a granddaughter who looks like her playing some kind of sick joke, or someone with a psychiatric condition who's fixated on this old case. She knew the exact time, I say. 11:47 for the accident, 3:23 for the time of death. Those aren't in the public records, and she's wearing clothes from 1987, not reproductions. Look at the fabric, the stitching. That dress is genuinely old. So she got them from a thrift store, or an estate sale. Lark, you can't be suggesting that we actually have a ghost in the ER. But that's exactly what I'm suggesting. After Ren Calloway in room 7, after the message about others waiting, I'm ready to believe that the barrier between life and death is more permeable than we think, especially at 03 o'clock in the morning, especially in a hospital where so many people have died over the years, where so many stories ended without proper conclusions. What if we let her look, I say? What's the harm? We walk her through the ER, let her see that her husband isn't here, and maybe that gives her closure. Maybe that's what she needs to move on. Move on to where? Dr. Whitcomb asks, but he's weakening. I can see it in his eyes. He's tired, and it's 03 o'clock in the morning, and stranger things have happened in this hospital. Not much stranger, perhaps, but strange enough. Fine. Walk her through. But if she becomes agitated or tries to harm herself or others, we're calling psych for an evaluation. I return to Hester, who's now standing beside the stretcher, smoothing down her dress with shaking hands. Mrs. Loudon, I'm going to take you to look for your husband. But I need you to stay calm and stay with me. Can you do that? Yes, she says immediately. Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. We walk through the ER together, Hester's hand clutching my arm, her sensible shoes making soft tapping sounds on the linoleum. The hallways are quiet, most of the exam rooms dark and empty. We pass the nurses' station where the monitors glow with the vital signs of the few patients we have in observation, and Hester looks at everything with wide, confused eyes. It's so different, she keeps saying. Everything is so different. Where are the payphones? Where's the smoking lounge? Why is everything on computers? We check every room, opening doors and letting her peer inside. Empty exam rooms, storage closets. The break room where a coffee pot sits cold and forgotten. No Thomas Loudon anywhere. With each empty room, Hester's agitation grows. She's walking faster now, pulling me along, checking rooms on her own. He has to be here, she's saying. The ambulance brought him here. I heard it on the radio. He has to be here. We reach the end of the main hallway, and there's only one place left we haven't checked. The old wing, the section of the hospital that was closed down in 2003, deemed too expensive to renovate and maintain. It's technically off limits, the entrance barricaded with temporary walls and warning signs about structural issues. But there's a service door that staff sometimes use as a shortcut, and I know it's not locked because maintenance has been going in and out for the past month, doing some kind of assessment. Hester stops at the barricade and puts her hand against the temporary wall. He's in there, she says with absolute certainty. I can feel him. He's in the old ER. That's where they would have taken him. That's where the trauma rooms used to be. Mrs. Loudon, that section has been closed for 20 years. There's no one in there. Please, she says, and she's crying again. Please, it's already 3:15. I only have 8 minutes. Let me just look. Against my better judgment, I guide her to the service door. It opens with a groan of old hinges, and the air that flows out is stale and cold, carrying the smell of dust and decay. The lights don't work in this section anymore, but I have my pen light, and its beam cuts through the darkness as we step inside. The old wing looks like a time capsule. When they closed it down, they left most of the equipment in place. planning to remove it later and then apparently forgetting about it. There are gurneys in the hallways, their wheels rusted and frozen. Exam room doors stand open, revealing spaces where cabinets still hang on walls and old medical charts are scattered on the floor, their papers yellowed and brittle. It smells wrong here. Not just old, but somehow sick, as if the building itself is dying slowly. Hester walks ahead of me now, no longer needing guidance. She moves through the darkness with purpose, turning corners without hesitation, as if she's following a map only she can see. "This is it," she keeps saying. "This is how it was. This is how I remember it." We reach what must have been the main trauma room. The door is marked with faded letters, Trauma 1. Hester stops in front of it, her hand on the door handle, and she's shaking so badly I can hear her breath catching in her throat. "He's in here," she whispers. "I can feel him. After all this time, I can finally feel him again." She opens the door, and my penlight illuminates a room that looks exactly like it must have in 1987. There's an old examination table in the center, the kind they don't make anymore, with manual adjustments and vinyl padding that's cracked and peeling. There are monitors on wheeled stands, their screens dark and dead, their cables hanging like dead vines, cabinets with glass doors, their contents covered in dust. And on the examination table, illuminated by my pen light, there's a depression in the old vinyl. A body-shaped impression, as if someone had been lying there recently, as if someone is still lying there just beyond what we can see. Hester lets out a sound that's half sob, half laugh. "Thomas," she says, and she walks to the examination table with her hands outstretched. "Thomas, I'm here. I'm finally here." I watch as she reaches the table and places her hands on the vinyl where the depression is deepest. And then, impossibly, I see movement in the air above the table. Not solid, not really visible, but a distortion, like heat waves rising from summer pavement. The shape of a person, lying down, chest moving with breath that shouldn't exist. "I forgive you," Hester is saying, and she's leaning over the empty table, touching the air where a face might be. "Do you hear me, Thomas? I forgive you for what you did, for the affair, for the lies, for all of it. I was so angry, I know. I said terrible things, but I forgive you, I love you, I've always loved you, and I'm so sorry I wasn't here when you needed me." The air shimmers more intensely, and I could swear I hear something. A voice, distant and faint, like a radio signal barely coming through static. Words I can't quite make out, but the tone is clear. Relief, gratitude, love. Hester is crying, her tears falling on the old vinyl, and she's smiling through the tears. "I know," she says to the empty air. "I know you're sorry too. It's okay. We're okay now. We can rest now." My watch beeps. It's 3:23 a.m. The shimmer in the air above the table intensifies for just a moment, becoming almost visible, almost solid. I can see the outline of a man, elderly, his features peaceful. And then he fades, dissolving like morning mist, and the depression in the vinyl slowly smooths out, the material returning to its original shape as if no one had ever been lying there. Hester staggers, and I catch her before she falls. She's lighter than she should be, insubstantial, and when I look at her face in the glow of my penlight, I can see she's changing, fading, becoming translucent. "Thank you," she whispers, and her voice sounds far away. "Thank you for letting me find him. Thank you for letting me say what I needed to say." "Mrs. Loudon." "Hester," she corrects, and she's smiling. "Call me Hester. And don't be afraid, dear. This is how it's supposed to work. I came back to finish what I couldn't finish when I was alive. Now it's finished. Now I can go home. We can both go home." She's disappearing before my eyes, her body becoming transparent, and through her I can see the old cabinets on the far wall. "Will you do something for me?" she asks. "Will you check on our house? On Maple Street, number 847. I think our granddaughter lives there now. Tell her that we're at peace. Tell her we're together again and we're at peace." "I will. I promise, and I mean it. I'll tell her." Hester Loudon smiles one last time, and then she's gone. Completely. Not even a shimmer in the air where she stood. Just empty space and the smell of dust and the sound of my own breathing in the darkness. I stand there for a long time, my penlight beam cutting through the dark, illuminating the examination table where Thomas Loudon died 37 years ago, and where, for just a few minutes tonight, he waited for his wife to come and forgive him. The room is empty now. Truly empty. Whatever remained of their unfinished business is finished now. When I finally make my way back to the main ER, Dr. Whitcomb is at the nurse's station. "Where's our confused patient?" he asks. "Did you find someone to sit with her?" "She left," I say, and it's not even a lie. She found what she was looking for. He looks at me strangely but doesn't press. It's 03 o'clock in the morning, and strange things happen at 03 o'clock in the morning. That's what I'm learning. The boundary between past and present, between living and dead, becomes permeable. People who left things unfinished can come back, just for a little while, just long enough to set things right. Later, when my shift ends, I drive to Maple Street. Number 847 is a small, well-maintained house with a neat front yard and a car in the driveway. I knock on the door at 8 o'clock a.m., which is too early. But I need to do this while it's still fresh in my mind, while I still believe what I saw. A woman in her 40s answers, looking understandably confused to find a nurse on her doorstep. "Can I help you?" "This is going to sound strange," I say, "but did you have grandparents named Thomas and Hester Loudon?" Her expression shifts from confusion to surprise. "Yes. They both passed away before I was born. This was their house. I inherited it from my mother. Why?" I don't tell her about the ER, about watching her grandmother fade away after finding her husband. I just say, "I work at Sacred Heart Hospital and we recently came across some old records. I wanted you to know that your grandparents, according to the notes, they loved each other very much. And they're at peace." It's inadequate. Not really what Hester asked me to say, but it's all I can manage. The woman looks at me strangely, but then her expression softens. "Thank you," she says. "That's kind of you to come tell me. My mother always said they had a complicated relationship, that they loved each other but had troubles. She said my grandmother never quite got over the way things ended, that she died heartbroken. It's nice to hear they found peace." I drive back to my apartment and sleep deeply, without dreams. And when I wake up in the afternoon, I check the obituaries from 1989. Hester Ann Loudon's notice includes a detail I didn't see on my phone last night. "In lieu of flowers, please donate to Sacred Heart Hospital Emergency Department in memory of the care provided to Thomas." Even in her grief, even after dying with her forgiveness unspoken, some part of Hester had held gratitude for the hospital that tried to save her husband. And last night, that hospital gave her the chance to finish what she'd left undone. I understand now why Room 7 called me. Why Wren Calloway left a message about others waiting. The ER at 03 o'clock in the morning has become something more than a medical facility. It's become a way station, a place where the unfinished can complete themselves, where messages can be delivered and forgiveness can be granted and peace can be found. The clock on my phone reads 3 o'clock p.m., and I realize I've been asleep for exactly 12 hours. 12 hours to balance the 12 hours of my shift. 12 hours in the land of the living to balance 12 hours in the space where the living and the dead meet. I have another night shift starting at 7 o'clock p.m. I wonder what will be waiting for me at 03 o'clock this time. What other unfinished story will call for help? What other soul will find its way to the ER looking for closure that only this place, at this particular hour, can provide? I'm not afraid. Not anymore. Because I understand now that I'm not being haunted. I'm being trusted. Trusted to witness, to help, to hold space for those who need just a few more minutes in the world they left too soon. The ER at 03 o'clock in the morning is where the impossible becomes possible. And tonight I'll be there, waiting to see what comes through those ambulance bay doors, what calls from which empty room, what hand reaches out from the space between then and now. After all, someone has to be there to answer. Someone has to keep the lights on in the waiting room between worlds. And for now, that someone is me.